Welcome to Herbally Yours, an adventure into the world of natural medicine. Here is your host, Dr. Kamhi, the natural nurse who will help you take the leap to ultimate wellness.
Greetings, and thank you for joining me, Ellen Kamhi, the natural nurse, for another edition of Herbally Yours, right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Herbally Yours brings you the latest information about the many facets in the world of natural living. And today, we are so happy to have as our guest, all the way from Germany, Ewald Kliegel. Ewald started as a medical massage therapist, and then he trained in the field of physiotherapy. He has intensely studied reflexology with a deep understanding of the internal organs. He has also authored a number of books and CDs on the subjects of reflexology, crystal healing, communication with our internal organs, and has been published in several languages. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ewald.
Thank you for having me. That's really great. I enjoy it, really.
Now, I want to go back in time. And what made you decide to work as a profession as a massage therapist?
I'm now 64, and my career started about in the age of 17 when I made two kinds of apprenticeships. One was in a hospital where I was emptying the bottles of the people and providing the patients with everything they needed. And so that was the first attempt of healing I got in contact with. And then in the second apprenticeship, which lasted also about 3 months, I was in a school for mentally handicapped children. I was in the age of 17. And so both healing and teaching, they remained as a dedication for me all my life through. And every time I did something different, I wanted to become rich once. I failed. I got bankrupt. And so I started anew with healing and teaching, and everything went fine again.
So I also have been involved, as you have, my entire life, in all kinds of aspects of natural medicine. And one really excellent teaching, and that you have gone very deeply into, is reflexology. Tell us what is reflexology.
Normally, we think about reflexology only making treatments on the feet, but my approach is definitely much wider. It means that our whole surface of our body is, for me, an El Dorado of all possibilities to make an influence on our internal organs and our structures via all different kinds of reflexology systems. So over the ears, over the feet, over the hands, over the back, there are more than 30, even 40 different systems on our body surface we can use for treatment, we can use for diagnosis, and we can get into a certain touch within ourselves. And that's, for me, reflexology.
Well, what we're talking about, and not everybody is familiar with this, like you and I are, my introduction to reflexology came about in 1974. I was walking down the street in Tucson, Arizona, and I was walking past a used bookstore, which I loved used bookstores, and this book came flying off the shelf and actually hit me, and it was called Zone Therapy. And that was my introduction to it, because I said, that's an amazing concept, that you can manipulate areas on the outside of your body, like on the hands, on the feet, on the earlobes, on the tongue, and various other areas. And it acts like a holograph to very specific organ systems within the body. It's an amazing teaching, and it really works. Definitely.
And Kevin and Barbara Kuntz, who wrote this book, they are really the great teachers, great performers, and I estimate that both of them very, very much with their researches all around the US and around the world. Yes.
And of course, if people do look at your systems that you prolifically share through writing and through CDs, such as body healing cards, that's one of them. Isn't this a self-care technique that people can actually use to help themselves?
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's always in all kinds of treatments. I'm a lecturer, meanwhile, for 30 years, and always it was necessary that the people can use it as a self-healing or self-treatment techniques, and simultaneously or at the same time to use it as a technique for professional use. That for me it's both sides, the scientific side and at the same time the holistic side, the natural healing areas, that both sides are always being addressed at the same time. And so reflexology we can use for sure for a self-healing and self-treatment for headaches, for instance. There are so many tricks. I think I could tell you for hours. What about the things?
Right. And one of the things that I found so wonderful with using reflexology with clients is, I'm thinking of this one woman. She had a frozen shoulder that was actually with her for 20 years, where she couldn't, let's say, pick up a box of cereal and put it on a top shelf. That kind of movement was impeded. And just after reflexology, it was amazing how much that shoulder opened up, after nothing else in conventional medicine was able to help her.
Yeah. For instance, when people have headaches, so what we do normally, we put in a buyer, or we put in something medical. But as easy as putting in some medication, it would be just to rub in the elbow, on the inside of the elbow, to make a soft, gentle massage on the inside of the elbow. And this is the reflexology area for the brain. And with soft massages, I could tell many people, meanwhile, to cope and to really to make it better with the headache and with migraine and everything. That's on the outside massage, and the effect is definitely something feeling better.
Yes, that's the amazing thing about it. It really helps. And of course, as you talk about it in your extensive writing, you don't say that this replaces working with a physician. It's just another healing modality that people can really explore.
Definitely. Also, I realized over the time that reflexology is something energetic. It has to do with energies. We have no scientific explanation at the moment of how the body operates. The impulses we give on the feet, on the hand, or wherever on the outside of the body, and we have no idea how the body processes, but it does. And here we are with the energies. And in the course of this, I realized, I came upon with friends of mine, with crystals, that crystals have also the power of energy. And so it is amazing what crystals in the area of the reflexology can achieve. That's great.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit more intensely. What do you mean by crystals?
We have two directions of energy. Let's say, put it down on an easy point. If someone has a backache, then it is mostly caused by an overdoing of a lack of energy. It's an exhaustion. So people have not enough energy in the back. So we can improve it in many ways by applying warmth, applying something which provides energy. And here we are with the crystals. There are crystals like the red jasper, for instance, or the obsidian. Those are crystals which are providing energy. On the other hand, we have some irritations, some skin irritations. It's not an inflammation. I talk of irritations, and that is already a surplus of energy in an area. Therefore, we need to put away the excess of energy, and there we can use also crystals. There would be, for instance, the aventurine, or it would be the sodalite, for instance.
Okay, so what you're wait a minute, Ewald. So what you're telling people, I want to just help explain that to them. Like, you're talking about specific crystals. You mentioned taurine and you mentioned sodalite, and they're specific crystals. Now, in your organ healing cards, do you help people decide what might be the best reflexology point and what might be the best crystal to put on which point to help them?
No. The organ healing cards have a different approach. The organ healing cards, I have three fields which I'm playing in. The one is reflexology, the other field are the crystals, and the third field are the organ, the access to the organs in a spiritual way, where we can get in touch with our organs, and so we can make ourselves more aware of our organs, of our body, and give healing impulses with the way we lay out the cards, and we put this kind of laying system and let it work on us. And that works as well in a different way.
Well, so those are different things that you're bringing together into kind of one holistic whole. And I want to remind our listeners that you are listening to Herbally Yours right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ellen Kamhi, the natural nurse. And today my guest is teacher, author, and naturopath Ewald Kliegel, and he is joining us from Germany. Ewald is actually a prolific author, and he has written many books. You can find them all, wherever you find your books. And we're also focusing on a new set of cards that he put out called the Body Healing Cards. So Ewald, tell us about the Body Healing Cards. What would people see if they were to look at those cards?
I worked on these cards, or in the field of how to get in contact with our organs. It was a work, meanwhile, for at least 15 years. I made some kind of an approach of Western medicine. Then, at the same time, I was looking for a natural healing for the systems of the traditional Chinese medicine, what they say about the organ. And certainly also about the Ayurvedic. And also through meditation, I got in contact with the organs, and then it was something like approaching me that the essence of the organs wanted to speak. And then I found, when I wrote the first chapters about it, then I found this wonderful painter, Annie Heng, and she made these excellent pictures according to my writings. And this combination is I'm still happy that I found this wonderful painter for these cards. So it's an assembling of Western medicine and of holistic medicine. It's both being merged in some ways. That's my aim. And the people get in contact with their organs in different ways, and that's my intention.
And so in what way would you say that this combines both Eastern techniques such as traditional Chinese medicine and energy medicine? In what way does it combine with conventional medicine?
For instance, when we look at the heart, so the card of the heart shows a drummer, so a typical, very powerful drummer, which is beating such a huge Asian drum. And so this is showing, this is a symbol for the heartbeat, that we are continuously have a heart which beats and which gives us life. And then when we look what happens then, so the sound of the drums goes out and reaches really far away places, as we have in former times in Africa with the drums. They were audible over many miles. And exactly this is what our heart does as well. And we have these wonderful researches of this Heart Math Institute in California. They found out that our heart has, with the magnetic field of our heart, we can measure about 3 meters in distance of around us. And so we influence with each other through our magnetic field of our hearts. That's scientific and that's holistic at the same time.
That's true. And we often see that with Chinese techniques. For instance, many people are familiar with acupuncture, as I'm sure you are as well. And you might even use pressure on those acupuncture points. But there have been scientific studies where they inject actual radioactive dye in these acupuncture points, and they've been able to see that it goes along with the Chinese called energy meridians. So there actually is backup scientific studies showing that the ancient techniques are very real, and we certainly have plenty of studies on the fact that they work well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I agree with you completely. I had a training with acupuncture, a long training with acupuncture, and since my wife is Chinese, so I'm often in China, and so I got to learn all the time when I'm in China, when I'm in Beijing. I get to know all those techniques, and I'm still very amazed every time. When I'm there, they are always eye-openers for me.
So you mean you're always learning new things all the time?
Always. And I thought I could relax when I'm getting older, but it doesn't seem so.
Well, you know what? I'm quite a bit older than you, so I don't think you're allowed to say getting older yet. You have a long ways to go. Right. But we certainly can hope that as we advance in years that we do become wiser. And, that's kind of the goal, but not everybody does, I have to admit. And I'm not so sure. I think it's kind of an ongoing process. So with your cards, the body healing cards, how would somebody use them? Do you do it as a layout, like you might be familiar with a tarot or regular playing cards, or do you lay the cards on the body system that you're talking about? Or how would these cards actually be used?
So we can use it for me, it's important to see that health and sickness is not something which is falling over us. It's always a development behind. So there are reasons why we have, let's say, a problem with the digestion. It doesn't come overnight. So there is a process. And this process involves the whole body, all organs. And now with the cards, we can ask our unconscious mind in different layout techniques. And so we can get closer by the layout techniques. Where we can start to improve our health, where we can start, and what would be the reason behind that causes my digestion problems, for instance. And this is the aim, that it's not only one organ, it's always an assembling, it's always an interference of different organs, and exactly that in between is the most important, and this is not being seen by modern medicine. I appreciate modern medicine, but they don't see the in-between. And this in-between leads to more health. That's my approach.
Now, you've actually had a lot of your teachings translated into many different languages. Have you found that there's kind of a loss, when you go from one language to another? Sometimes it's not so easy to explain the same concept.
No, not at all. It's very interesting, because I've been doing this teaching also in China, certainly with the translation of my wife. But it's always that people understand with our energy field, with our, as I told you before, with the heart magnetic field. They understand the approach. They understand what I mean without words. The words are just then additional information. And so it was in France. It's the same. I speak quite well French, and so it's often I'm missing out words, but the French understood perfectly, even not understanding the words immediately. So the Chinese have the same liver as the French or the Americans or me as a German. We have the same buildup of our liver, we just name it differently. Ganjang, liver, foie, or Leber, but it's the same organ. Sure. And we can communicate with our body, especially with breathing. And so it's that is the aim which I have behind, that the people get in a better contact with their body, with their organs, and that leads to more health.
Well, that's certainly true. And we can see that happen when you work with someone and they come in, they've tried everything, they're on all kinds of pharmaceuticals. And, what you're doing might be considered energy medicine and in the spiritual realm. And not everybody is up to that or feels comfortable with that. But even if they don't have a belief system about it and they go, well, I'll give it a try because the other stuff didn't work, very often they're quite amazed at the turnaround.
Yes, that's the point. And it happened to me quite often in my praxis that there were mostly the men which were coming in. One of them told me immediately. He said he wouldn't come to me on his own. He was sent by his wife, and in order to keep the family peace, he went to my praxis. And he doesn't believe me. He doesn't. He wanted to show up because his wife insisted. And in the end, it was really a turnaround, as you say. And this happened not only once. And therefore, my approach is not only holistic. My approach, or not only spiritual, my approach is also scientific. And I really estimate medical sciences. They are important, but we need the other side as well.
Yes, it all works together. Well, I want to thank you so much for being our guest today, right here on Herbally Yours. And a good contact for you would be ewald-kliegel.de. And I know people may not have that handy, but we will have this actually published when we have the archive of the show, so they can find it very easily. Or I found you instantly by going to Body Healing Cards right on Amazon.com. It was beautiful layout there as well.
I thank you very much for having me. It was a wonderful conversation, wonderful talk with you, and I really appreciate what you are doing with your approach, with your information you give the people on the radio.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Herbally Yours, produced in the studios of 90.3 WHPC, Nassau Community College, Garden City, New York. For further information, email us at whpc@ncc.edu. This is your host, Ellen Kamhi, at naturalnurse.com, inviting you to join us next week for another edition of Herbally Yours. Until then, stay healthy.